Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
Two Doomed Men Podcast, the greatest, ready? The greatest podcast in the history of the country, perhaps even the world.
What's up? We are back. Welcome back, everybody. It's been a while. Things have been a little hectic, but you are listening to the Two Doomed Men Podcast. As always, it's Scagz and yours truly, the captain. And, we got some pretty good stuff coming up. What's up, buddy? You want to tell everybody what we're doing?
Like I said, it's been a while. This has been the longest stretch for me, at least, since the Two Doomed Men Podcast began many years ago, where I was just not able to record an episode or be part of an episode. A couple of busy weeks, a lot going on, work-wise, family-wise. So old Scagz here was not able to participate. But we got to shake off the rust now. I'm back. I'm excited. First time I was really looking forward to talking to the captain in a long time.
As I said with Garrett, if you guys just like, share, and subscribe a little bit more, maybe we could do this full-time. But,
Yeah, maybe. Well, unfortunately, no. We got to provide for our families. Anyway, if you missed the last episode, it was Scagz and Garrett. I'm sorry, Captain and Garrett, and we did not put it on YouTube just because I kind of knew
illogical people.
Yeah, sure. Just we got to be careful what we put on YouTube. It doesn't. We're going to always talk about whatever it is we want to talk about, but we're not going to just march straight into being banned off of any of the channels if we can help it. So tonight. We're back. I thought that there's a lot that I could talk about, obviously, because I haven't been on in 3 weeks. I thought we'd focus mainly on the big debate that occurred over the past weekend. It's a couple days later now, but it's still kind of dominating the discourse online at the moment, the debate on the Joe Rogan Experience between Dave Smith and Douglas Murray, which I thought was fascinating. I thought, Cap, it was like a UFC fight in our world. Right, like where you have the best fighters on two sides of something, but intellectually, and they finally get a chance to meet and go at it. Obviously, a lot of us have been waiting for the opportunity for Dave, who we like and we think makes good arguments about things. Finally, get an opportunity to go up against somebody kind of like an equal caliber in terms of debating or something like that.
To only find out he's a AI-generated propaganda machine.
Sure. We've actually, ironically, done an episode a while ago kind of criticizing Douglas Murray and some of his takes on this, especially kind of around the wars in Israel. So we'll talk a lot about that. I also thought, Cap, it's kind of interesting to see a few years into the podcast now. I remember a long time ago, me and you during the heyday of the woke and the COVID insanity, we kind of predicted that this isn't going to last in the future. This woke insanity crap is going to not have a seat at the table of rational discussion. And there'll be a different discussion that'll be occurring amongst people on the right or the center right or whatever you want to call it. And we'll actually be able to have like some substantial discussion about things. So we predicted this, and I think the moment has finally kind of arrived.
This is the kickoff to the new table, the new seating arrangement. Yeah,
right. The table happened to be Joe Rogan's table, and it makes sense. It's the largest platform of anything in the world. It's kind of funny. It's like the podcast bro space is the one leading the charge in terms of that. So a lot of things I appreciated about this, Cap, but the fact that we kind of mentioned that years ago, and we've arrived now at that point in time.
Only took us 288 episodes. Isn't it funny that toxic masculinity paves the way once again?
Yeah, it is. I'll also say it's a bit ironic. We'll get into the arguments and we'll play a couple of the videos, and the Captain and I will give our thoughts and responses to some of the things that were said. But I also find it kind of ironic, although the woke stuff's gone, the tactics are not necessarily gone.
They just weaponized a new version of wokeism
in a way
called Judaism.
And whatever. Douglas, so real quick, I'll make a point, Cap. I thought your rant last episode was well done. I agreed with many of the points you made on that. Maybe we could get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
I'm slowly morphing into an anarchist because I don't see an outcome.
You're going through the same, the same process that I went through a few years ago. So let's just get right into it, man. I got 3 videos I want to play. One of them is kind of
pretty sure I watched 2 of them.
Sure, and it's fine. You could give your take live in the moment. One of them is kind of the crux of the debate. There's many parts of this debate that occurred, but it's centered around, like, again, ironically, the concept of like the experts. And being an expert,
trust the science,
right? Like, which is frustrating to me. I felt very frustrated after I watched this debate. Like, oh no, we're gonna like rehash this concept again. Just like now, like at least we can have a discussion. So it's an improvement where like people are actually talking to each other on Joe Rogan's podcast again from different sides of the aisle. But now we have to rehash the concept of like there's an expert class and they're the ones that should be listened to. So without further ado, I will start sharing. Actually, real quick, before we begin that, we got some other interesting stuff.
This weekend?
I almost forgot about it. But this weekend is WrestleMania, and the Captain got me back into wrestling this past year with our
Halloween party,
and all that stuff. So we're going to be hanging out with the boys. We will be doing a little bit of a WrestleMania companion stream. Captain and I were laughing right before we started recording that 100%. We're not going to stream the whole thing.
Yeah, it's like a 5-hour event.
Right. So we'll be doing a companion stream. You could watch WrestleMania and you could throw 2 Doom Men on in the background or next to it. We'll also be watching WrestleMania and hanging out with the boys and talking about it. If there's one match I want to be doing it live for, it is El Grande Americano versus Rey Mysterio. And I was telling the Captain, if you're following, sorry, real quick, we'll just keep this brief. If you're following wrestling, I find that storyline to be hysterical. It is pure trolling. There is also like a little bit of wrestling tries to kind of adapt sometimes things that are happening in real life and bring them into the storylines happening in wrestling. So like there is Rey Mysterio and like the Latino World Order against like Team America, World Police kind of going on. And there's a character, El Grande Americano, who's kind of like stolen their whole
he's an American lucha libre, basically.
And
he's from the Gulf of America, which is amazing.
Trolling in its one of its best forms. I really am enjoying it. So I'd like to watch that one play out and us laugh on camera while it does. I saw he headbutted Rey Mysterio the other day with a piece of metal in his mask. It's amazing. It really. I have to thank you, Cap, for getting me back into the wrestling again.
It's definitely an interesting time, and we will also be doing a Doomed review on Saturday as well. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. That's not going to be live though, right?
Probably not.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
With the Friends crew for that one. So real quick before we get into the thing, one last wrestling point I wanted to point out. Go if you are on Instagram.
This is our boy right here.
Follow this page. It's called Stone Cold Stunner Daily, all one word. I am invested in this page's success. This is a guy who started his Instagram page and he is determined to prove his wife wrong. So that's why I'm invested in this. I need him to prove his wife wrong. And he's trying to prove his wife wrong that he could get this page to 100,000 followers in 365 days. And the page is dedicated to nothing else besides Stone Cold Steve Austin stunnering people. And he is currently at day 242, and he's at 51,000 followers. He needs some help.
Yeah.
I've spoken to this guy before in DMs. I did tell him, I'm like, WrestleMania is going to be a big weekend for you, buddy. You gotta like pump out content that weekend and push it. So go follow him. I'm invested in making sure he gets there. A little bit. What do we got? A little bit less, or a little bit more than 100 days remaining for him to reach the goal. So if we can add a couple,
it's one person a day.
Sure. Good way to put it, Cap. All right, so let's get into it. Dave Smith, Douglas Murray, the experts. I did post this clip, but I'm taking it here from Twitter. Captain, you did not watch the whole debate, right? So
no, because it was just Douglas Murray literally was just sickening me to my stomach. That was like a form of torture for me. But go ahead.
Right. I did watch the whole thing, so let's get into kind of the crux of the debate, and we'll pause. You want me to pause anytime? Let me know.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I do also think that one of the bigger kind of the bigger picture dynamics to all of this is that we have at least since 9/11 been in a state of perpetual war, and all of these wars have been disasters. They have been so many lies involved in selling all of them. I mean, the whole Iraq war, the whole war in Afghanistan, just lying the whole way through. I mean, I remember literally having conversations with Green Berets in the middle of the war in Afghanistan, and they're like, George W. Bush is telling you that the army we're building up there is really successful. This thing's going to fall in a week without us. And then all through the Obama administration, it's just like lie after lie after lie with disastrous wars. And so this does create a fertile ground for people to say, I wonder if they were lying about all these wars.
Sure.
Again, I'm not really trying to argue with you about World War II. I'd rather argue about these wars today.
I think the interesting question is whether...
Real quick, some context for anybody who did not watch the debate. Interestingly enough, Douglas starts off the debate by kind of attacking Joe Rogan over hosting people on the podcast, chiefly Darryl Cooper, who's been, talking about Israel and Gaza and talking about World War II, a little bit controversially. We've talked about him, and I was taken aback by kind of Douglas's way that he's attacking Joe Rogan about it. But that's kind of what they're talking about here.
Yeah. Well, something I was going to bring up, and we could talk more about it later after we hear these clips. I really believe eventually, maybe not so much that Trump's in office, but like the mainstream media that's dying sooner than later is really going to start pushing back on Joe Rogan, being like, he's releasing, disinformation, or he shouldn't have such a large platform. How is he going to be able to deplatform like the Washington Post or you know what I'm saying? Like, I think we're going to start seeing more and more smear campaigns. Not that he doesn't already have that. I think it's going to be more of a coordinated effort, because if he could have somebody come on that supports the narrative the way this smook did, and you have somebody else just completely like Dave Smith who can completely decimate you, and if more people were to debate people like Dave Smith, like the truth would get out there. And when Joe puts this out, the first day, 10 million views or something?
Yeah, a few million, right? It's the biggest platform.
I think we're going to see a more organized effort to going after Joe Rogan, because his platform's too dangerous to them. It's too dangerous.
Sure, there has been organized efforts in the past, of course, namely from CNN, like during COVID. I think if I can push back on you, I think it's going to be different this time. It's going to be coming from people like Douglas Murray, who are in like the independent space, who are now shifting over to kind of be gatekeepers of what we can and can't talk about now. Whereas before that was like the corporate press, the legacy media.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. But now, as we predicted as well, and many other people, we kind of won. We won one battle in the whole information warfare, and Podcast Bros won the day. But don't think they're not going to come for this space. And
they're going to start popping up in here.
Aren't going to get compromised and whatnot. Now, maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I'll be honest. I went into this debate with an open mind. I have criticized Douglas Murray on our podcast in the past But throughout COVID and the woke insanity, I thought Douglas Murray was actually a pretty interesting voice of reason throughout it all. He had made a lot of good points. So I liked him. I disagree with him tremendously, as Dave does on like war and shit. But I'm like, okay, let me like take this opportunity, which is another reason why I like these things happening, to go into this with an open mind. Maybe I've been listening to Dave too much, right? And I haven't heard Douglas'
an opposing side,
view. And maybe there are some things that I'm like a blind spot that I'm not seeing, right? And let me openly hear it out. So that's kind of how I went into this. Let's let them keep talking, just to give you guys my, what I was thinking at the time. Yeah. Okay.
And it's gone.
Whether you're busy watering.
Would you not talk about mistakes that were made overall?
Absolutely.
Okay, you should.
Absolutely.
Right.
I'm all for going back and looking at mistakes.
So what is your argument then?
It's a very weird thing to go back, zone in on a man, say this one thing is a mistake and should characterize him, and
you're taking him out of context when you're talking about Daryl, who's done, what was it, 30 plus hours?
So what? 30 plus hours of podcasting. You do that in a week. I mean,
but it's a very different thing.
He's not doing a podcast like talking to people.
Okay, nor is he doing scholarly work, nor is he working in the archives. Clearly, come on. I mean, he is not the historian of our era.
He's not claiming to be.
This is the thing, Joe. This is like punching jelly.
No, but you don't consume his work.
What I'm saying, because I don't need to consume.
Pause it for a second.
Versions.
A little bit of a delay here. Sorry, folks. A little bit of lag or something. Good.
Isn't it funny that he can't agree with the guy that is coming up with research that goes against what he believes? It's like zero open-mindedness.
It's a very woke-like tendency.
Yeah.
Right. And again, and there's more of this. It's very ironic coming from Douglas Murray, who was one of the chief critics of the woke leftists the past couple of years. Again, I don't know Daryl Cooper. I like his work, but just to defend him, I mean, he doesn't do scholarly work. Daryl Cooper has also done just to give an example of the scholarly work. He does do scholarly work, right? To give an example of one of the podcast series he's done, he did one on Jim Jones and the massacre, don't drink the Kool-Aid thing in Guyana. And I was listening to him talk about that, and he's like, when I worked on that series, I listened like for the few months and years up to me recording it. He's like, I listened to almost every single recording that exists of Jim Jones. He's like, it was thousands of hours.
Yeah, he recorded all his masses, everything.
And he's like, and I listened to it all. He's like, I was dreaming about Jim Jones, or like every day was in my ears while I was at work, trying to understand this man, learn about him, so I could then. That's scholarly work right there, right? That's investing the time and research into the thing you're trying to know. You're right over there, Cap. I feel like we're having a little bit of a delay again or something.
Yeah, no, you sorry, now I'm stuttering. Yeah. Yours just cut out for a quick second. Okay. Your stream.
Yeah. Anyway, that is the kind of work that Daryl Cooper does. There's way more to this. To get ahead of ourselves here.
I'm just saying it's so funny that
here, I'm sure.
The narrative is now being questioned, and no, we can't question the narrative. He's not a scholar. He's not doing real work.
Yeah, trust the experts.
It's a revisionist history. I understand.
But it's not revisionist history. If you listen to his work, it's not revisionist history. He's basing it on historical work.
I know. But okay, so this is my point about jelly. It's a shape-shifting thing. Comedian or historian?
He's not a comedian.
Historian or podcast? Would-be historian or actual historian? You say he doesn't claim to be a historian, but he's pumping out tens of hours of
neither
history.
Does Dan Carlin. He doesn't claim to be a historian either.
You see my point about the move. It's like some weird jiu-jitsu move.
No, I don't.
Where you say, hang on, you know all about this as well. You say, I'm not a historian, but I'm going to spend my time talking about history. I'm not a journalist, but I'm going to spend my time talking about this thing. I'm not an expert on this, but I'm going to spend my time talking about this thing. It's a weird move, yeah?
No.
You don't think?
No, I'm a free American. I can talk about what I like to. So I don't. So what is the point
I've noticed
here?
You can, but
we all what's the point?
The point is, what are you pushing? What are you watering?
What am I pushing?
Yes.
Liberty, free markets, peace, prosperity,
truth.
Not getting in another stupid catastrophic war, which we're on the precipice of right now. That's what I'm pushing.
What are we on the precipice of?
Well, I think you.
All right, so before they get into kind of the war thing, again, I'm trying to understand what Douglas Murray is meaning, which I was having a hard time doing in the moment while I was watching this live. I'm like, I don't understand his point. Like, he's saying you can talk about it, but you can't. I'd say my most charitable interpretation, which I don't think he actually means, but perhaps he's thinking something along the lines of people are too dumb to be trusted, like hearing the truth, hearing anything.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if that's exactly what he's saying, but perhaps if I would give him a charitable interpretation, that's what I would.
It's funny that you bring it up in that manner, because the tidbits that I did hear of the debate and the stuff that I looked into and things that we shared, I always got a feeling of him talking like during COVID. Do you remember Dave Portnoy was making a shit ton of money day trading?
Yeah.
And he was talking about it, and he's like, we're going to the moon, and people were following his moves. And then who was the other guy that Dave, Chris Como, interviewed him. And he was like trying to shame Dave into being like, well, you know, you're a wealthy man, but your followers they're being a little irresponsible with their money, and it's kind of like you to blame. And he's like, no, they're free, and they get to decide how much they invest, and I'm actually making people money. Nobody's really, I mean, we're all taking a risk. He's like, and they're like, yeah, but you know, your information and your like, just trying to like downplay like what he was trying to do. And I kind of get that, like the same thing here.
Yeah. It's not like, again, some people are saying that Douglas Murray is saying you can't talk about these things. He's not actually saying that. He does say, no, you can talk about whatever you want. He's just making this odd point that we're all having trouble understanding what he's making. Because he's not being authentic either. What Douglas Murray is doing is he is gatekeeping. He's not telling you can't talk about anything you want. He's trying to tell you, well, certain people should only be trusted when talking about these things, and everyone else's opinion should kind of be dismissed. And he'll even admit this himself. I get this at this point. I got another video of him later. It's a very snob, elitist point of view. Again, the Captain and I talk about all types of shit all the time, and we will tell you we're not experts in it. Right? What is the one thing that we are experts in, Captain? Do you remember?
Drinking in inclement weather and not being experts.
But I was going to say freedom. We're experts in freedom, right? But yeah, it's your right to talk about whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
And it's not my responsibility or Joe Rogan's responsibility or Dave Smith's responsibility if someone misinterprets something you're saying or you got it wrong and then
that's a conversation. You know,
right. You know, now we then get back into like the world where you know, like because Donald Trump said certain things and then some people did some crazy stuff, he directly incited them to go shoot people. Or do you remember when that guy, that Bernie bro shot up like the Republican baseball game years ago? I don't know if you remember. There was like a Republican softball practice.
Yes.
Some Bernie bro guy went and like shot at them, right? Is like Bernie Sanders responsible for that? No, of course he isn't, right? Like people are adults. Some people take things the wrong way. Some people maybe look into things too much. Yeah. Everyone is an adult here. We don't have to have this like nanny view of adult children. A different story, but like adult human beings, let the chips fall. You say what you want, and you let the chips fall where they may.
And this is kind of the main theme of their debate the whole way through. On because I know Dave was heavy on the fact like, yeah, we get it. You're trying to kill Hamas, but it doesn't give you the right to bring the whole building down with everybody else in it to kill one member, like, and then the argument is like, well, no, Gaza is responsible. Israel has, carte blanche. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, I really like this because it's interesting psychologically, and I love psychological shit, especially when you have like two really sharp people who are like thinkers, in the public space. Let's listen to a little bit more. There's a couple more minutes. Like I said, and I have two other. So I have this one clip, and then I have two other clips, which are of both Dave and Douglas after this debate. They've both been talking a lot afterwards.
Right.
Worth noting, Murray's trying to sell a book right now that he just came out with. So, funny, some of the criticisms of Dave Smith after this are like, he won't stop talking about this debate after. Like he's trying to, it was like a big moment. Right. And he's out there promoting himself as he has every right to do. And Douglas Murray is out there also trying to sell his book as he has every right to do. That's not like that is even.
I'm interested to see how this book does.
Yeah, that's a good point. That would be a good measure of who is compelled by your arguments.
Weren't you just talking about it the other day? Everyone I hear on the inside says we're about to attack Iran. I think you just said something about that the other day. Am I wrong about that? I thought I saw in one of your interviews that you did.
Possibly.
No. Okay.
That doesn't mean we are on the verge of a war. I mean, you keep referring to we being in wars. There's a very big difference between a country having a military that's engaged and a country being at war. This country has not been at war for 25 years. You have not been fighting for the American homeland for 25 years.
Yes, we haven't. That's true. Right. We haven't had a war on our shores. We've been picking on third world countries halfway around the world.
Well, you haven't been randomly picking on them. I mean, Afghanistan, you went.
I didn't say it was random.
Yeah, right. Okay. It wasn't like you suddenly decided to bomb, again, Myanmar or something. You went for Afghanistan to find bin Laden and take revenge for 9/11 and stop an attack like that happening again on the American homeland. That is very different from a country being at war.
Yeah, but that's a total mischaracterization of the war in Afghanistan. It's one thing to say that might be an accurate characterization of the special operations mission in late 2001, but then we fought a 20-year regime change war against the Taliban.
Because you got dragged into the quicksand of war.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, fine. But
fine.
I thought it wasn't.
We went marching in with smiles on.
He just said it wasn't a war, and then he said you got marched into 20 years of quicksand of war. The point, I also find this interesting, especially right now, given the current climate and things that are happening around the world. I've seen Trump supporters tell me, hey, what's going on in Yemen? The strikes in Yemen, it's not a war. So we actually haven't broken that no new wars promise. And it's just like, well, what? What? I mean, even in that regard, let's just focus on that one real quick. So like by your own admission, the attacks on Yemen are like a 24-hour round the clock, 7 days a week bombing operation on the country of Yemen and the group, the Houthis. That doesn't qualify as a war. I mean, sure, it's an authorization of use of military force. So we get to still say it's not a war. I mean, you're kind of playing semantics at this point, right?
You're still killing people.
Yeah. It's semantics at this point. Interesting to see Douglas Murray kind of make that argument. Okay, let's keep going.
I don't get
No,
your
I
argument.
said it was a war. It's your use of we, as if you're personally like suffering this war. I mean, you're a taxpayer.
When I say we,
we're taxpayers,
implied,
so we pay for it. Okay, fine.
Douglas, would you go, if I went back and corrected you on every time you've used the term we to refer to your government or something like that? Like if I were to say, oh, we just imposed tariffs on China, would you point out that I didn't and it was the Trump administration?
I'm saying you take it obviously very personally, and that's your right to do so, of course. I'm just trying to make sure we're accurate here.
What do you think I'm taking personally?
The American wars.
Sure, yeah, I think they've killed hundreds of thousands of people and cost my country $8 trillion and degraded my country very much.
And there's a very good argument to make on that. I'm still slightly bemused about this move from I'm an expert on this and I have views to I'm a comedian.
I've never claimed to be an expert on anything.
This is the problem, Joe. I mean, if somebody
Wait a minute,
says
you have to claim to be an expert on something to have an opinion on something?
You don't have to be. You don't have to be.
But
so it's like I'm not a historian, but I'm pumping out history.
But wait a minute,
I'm not an expert, but I'm talking all the time about this.
But you're not even talking about
Okay, what were you gonna say?
What's the
frustrating,
point of
right?
it?
Frustrating,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
This is why I couldn't get through this and only watched clips and shit from it. Because he's like he's literally making the whole point of like you're not you can't be an expert and a comedian, and you can't act like a historian, but all you're doing is pumping out historical facts. And then Joe was like, he's not claiming to be, whatever Joe said. He's like, oh, well, you don't need to be an expert. So you just said two things. You just said you can't be an expert in all these things, and I'm not saying you can't be an expert.
Yeah, it's contradictory, almost illogical. I also, again, I'm listening to this again. I'm trying to understand Douglas Murray. I don't know, British folks. Their brains must just be wired.
He must have did shrooms or something with Joe the night before, and he never really came down from it.
I don't know. I think British people's brains are wired much differently from Americans in terms of like how they view the world, how they view their own individual rights. They're
they do have their own culture
kind of
over
like
there.
their little independence. They definitely are a little bit more beholden.
A lot of stuff for them is proper and has its place, and there's no place in their culture for a comedian to be a political expert that talks about history.
Yes,
that's too far. That's too. That's too far for them,
Yeah, and it's ironic again coming from Douglas Murray. He speaks with he speaks like this. I was making fun of him in that episode the last time that like delivering a line with a fancy British accent makes you sound smarter.
Yeah,
for some reason, but that doesn't mean.
And he uses big words you got to look up.
Yeah. Sorry. All right. Not to get too much into just insulting Douglas Murray here. We got another minute here, and then we'll get into some other clips of them afterwards, which I think were equally interesting.
What he just said.
No, I'm saying this is my point about this. You say, I'm not an expert.
So what's the solution? To not talk about it?
No, it's to have more experts around.
No, the expert class hasn't done a great job.
I know.
Man. This is follow the science.
Yeah, but you know what? I agree with that. I just said to you, I agree with that.
Right. I know.
But
so
one
Douglas,
of the problems
during all of COVID, I will put my track record against any of the expert class on COVID. I'm glad to do that. So should I have just shut up? Should I have shut up by opposing lockdowns and opposing vaccine mandates and talking about
was
the lab
argument
theory?
at the time. You realize
that's the entire argument that you're making. Let the experts handle this.
It is, though.
Yeah.
It really is. And again, I was there. I was listening to Dave Smith's show during COVID. And he even had the debate against Chris Cuomo, where he fucking shit on him. And yes, the argument made at the time by the woke leftists and the regime and the establishment was, you're going to get a strike on YouTube. You are a domestic terrorist. You're not an expert. You can't be commenting on the COVID vaccine or the whatever. And Douglas Murray agreed with this at the time. He agreed with us at the time.
Yeah.
Like, this is bullshit. We should be able to talk about this and oppose the lockdowns and these things. But now that we've again, the times have changed.
Yeah,
the table has shifted. But now because we're talking about World
War
II, I don't even know if that's correct. I mean, I maybe Cap, maybe, but I just. Now that we've shifted the topic, turns out he actually is very much so like that and has the same tendencies.
Yeah.
Just depends on what the subject matter is.
Yeah, it's a big unmasking moment.
Yes.
But it begs the question, we should have more experts, right? But this is a long form conversation platform. So do you want Joe Rogan to turn into a panelist committee where everybody gets to talk for 3 seconds, a minute a piece, and then you get your news clip out of that? Is that how you would like this information? You know what I mean? Like, are we just going to recreate? Like, the reason the podcast bros are winning is because we can sit down and talk about this in extent. Whether we are experts or not, we try to get our information from experts. He wants this room full of experts. That's what CNN does. And Dave put it perfectly. The experts have been failing miserably for the past couple of years. Where, I mean, if me and you are outing the experts before the narrative is even out because we know it's wrong, you're in pretty bad shape.
Yeah. I also just think there's a reason why guys like Joe Rogan or Dave Smith have become more popular, especially over the course of the past years. It's because people could smell bullshit. They really can. I can, right? It doesn't mean that people aren't wrong, right? Dave Smith can be wrong. Joe Rogan can be wrong. He's wrong all the time. We could be wrong, right?
And it also doesn't mean that you can't change your opinion after you learn new things.
That too. But there is just something about human psychology interaction, which I'm surprised that maybe Douglas Murray doesn't understand. You could just kind of tell when someone's being honest. Yeah. I mean, I have a radar where sometimes I'm surprised. I am surprised here by Douglas Murray, but my radar's going off. Like, this guy,
it's not being authentic.
He's full of shit, or I don't know.
He's propagating. He's propagating.
It is very, very frustrating. It really is to see. It's annoying to me to have to rehash this again. We're new table, better. But I would say that Douglas Murray is just one click to the right of the woke leftists. Just one click. That's all. Yeah.
I feel that we're seeing that more and more, and that's why I said earlier it's an unmasking moment, because if you look, the beginning of Joe Biden's presidency, we got into, we started this proxy war with Russia and blindly supported Ukraine in their efforts to fight Russia. And the left was all for it. And the right was like, how could you do this? They're laundering money. This is bullshit. The money's not really going there. They're sending too much. We don't want to. And then Trump got into office, and October 7th obviously happened before Trump got in, but nonetheless, now it's like a subject that the right wing, that's most of the right wing could get beyond, and they don't see any similarities, that we are just proxy paying for this war because it's Israel man's good and Russia man's bad. And like this mask comes off because we're literally walking down the same path.
It's a side that you're on now. Like, you don't have any actual principles.
Yeah.
What's even more ironic about that in general is that the other war that you're actually against is actually still going on.
Yeah.
You're still against that one, but you're not against, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a bit different.
They would all the boomers would vote to end the war in Ukraine now.
I don't even know about that. They're the worst. They probably. But what I'm saying is, like, it's a bit different from, like, we're talking about the war in Iraq, which was like 20 years ago now. That's over. For the most part, and we've moved on to now, like, a new war happens and everybody has to kind of formulate what they think about the new war, but we're having actually both of them at the same time right now, and people are having a good view on one and then a contradictory view on the other at the same time. It's not like you've had time to change your mind or forget or anything like that.
There's no 20-year difference.
And I understand. I'm not autistic. I understand 20 years could go on, could pass by, and people forget about things, forgot about the Patriot Act and all that shit, or they've been propagandized by the machine over that course of time, and they're not thinking of things that way anymore. So that is just ironic. I got a couple other videos here. We're going. I had a point I wanted to make, but I can't forget about now.
I'm sorry.
So that's all good. That's all good. It's the way it goes. So okay, so now internet goes in an uproar, right? Okay, actually, sorry. I just remembered my point. So they were talking largely kind of about Darryl Cooper, who has been doing the World War II thing, saying some controversial things, that he thought Churchill was the chief villain, things like this. And Murray there took the position, like, you have to be careful who you're platforming and what exactly is the ground you're watering. Like, you're watering ground for conspiracy theories. And without saying it, Murray is basically saying, like, Darryl Cooper is watering the ground for anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial, and that the Nazis were the good guys, right? That's essentially what he's insinuating. I'll be honest with you. That's I can read through what people are trying to say without exactly saying it. That's what he's saying. But then if you actually go and consume Darryl Cooper's work, again, just to defend him here for a moment, that's not what he's doing. Number one, and there was a great example I saw of this on Twitter. Darryl Cooper was talking about something. The crux of Darryl Cooper's argument, where he's trying to make people understand, is that, like, the Germans did not just all of a sudden
wake up one day,
and become murderous psychopaths, insane people. They were humans. Things happened, and it caused them to support the Nazis and to do some atrocious shit, right? But that didn't just happen magically overnight. And if we can understand that, we can kind of start to understand.
It begs the question: what took place over that time period?
And also, like, why does that happen? Let's not do that again. Like, how does that tend to happen for real? Instead, it's like cartoon villain idea of history that we have. So anyway, I saw a lot of people. He was talking about the death camps, the Holocaust camp, right? And Darryl Cooper was posting about it on Twitter, talking about it, and he was saying how a lot of the Holocaust camps where people were killed were in the east of Europe. Later on, after the war was over, which ends up falling under the Soviet Union's umbrella, and the kind of more just concentration labor camps were in the West, in Germany and that portion of Germany, while they were,
taking over the world,
taking over Europe. So people are saying, oh, you see, he's trying to spin the conspiracy theory that there weren't actually death camps, that the Soviet Union lied about it and made it up as propaganda and all this and that. Okay, so I went to, like, the Holocaust Museum website, and I started, like, looking at the information that's on the Holocaust Museum website itself. And if you just go look at their website itself, it just shows you how the death camps were in Eastern Europe. It's all there. That, like, here's, like, the map. Here's where the death camps are, where they, like, industrial killed people. And that's where the camps were, on the Holocaust Museum's website. It's not that Daryl Cooper's trying to water fertile ground to say the Holocaust didn't happen.
Yeah.
He's trying to make the point that, well, actually, the German Nazi government was aware, again, because the whole population did not just go insane overnight. And some of the more heinous, insane, crazy shit we're going to do it out of the view of the general public, because maybe they're not ready for this insane, heinous shit that we're doing.
Yes, you might have think
good, or we're revising what happened, or saying that it's good. Of course, it's not. It's just telling it as it happened, so you can understand why governments would even do things the way they would, or just what even just actually happened. I don't know. I always found World War II to be super fucking interesting.
I think over the next several years, we're going to find out it was even more interesting than you ever imagined.
Oh, no, Captain, you're watering fertile ground here. Have you ever been to World War II in order to talk about it? Have we ever been to Douglas Murray's mind in order to comment on what he thinks?
I took shrooms and I was remote viewing from the experiences of a young, Soviet Union boy fighting in World War II. And then I was in the plains over Okinawa. I was there.
Yeah, I mean, later on in the podcast, that was a big win for Douglas Murray, where he basically told Dave, like, they're arguing about the current war in Gaza. Finally, they end up getting into some of that. And his point was like, oh, you've never been to Gaza before. How could you be talking about this all the time when you've never been? And again, then he's going on to say, I'm not saying you can't talk about it, but like, you've never been. How could you talk about it with authority? So, okay.
Well, Scagz, I've never been to California, so Californians, I'm sorry for shitting on you all this time.
So, given that thought, obviously, I think it's preposterous, right? You could study things at length for years through secondhand accounts, and you could become an expert on a thing. Again, Dave Smith's not claiming to be an expert. But Douglas Murray's point being like, oh, well, I think I know better in terms of this war because I've been there. I've spoken with the IDF. I've gone to Gaza. Okay, Douglas Murray. Have you hung out with Palestinians? Have you hung out with Hamas? Did you see what they have to say? Because you could do that, right? So I could easily turn your logic around and be like, you can't comment on that. You didn't actually listen to both sides. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I'm not making that point in actuality, right? I tend to agree with Douglas Murray that Hamas is crazy people. I don't need to go and meet a Hamas member to understand what they did was insane on October 7th, right? But Douglas Murray does have that view in reverse.
And that's kind of the problem of this conversation, because he's looking for an expert to come and explain it all. But you, at the bare minimum, you're still allowed to have your opinion.
Sure.
And if you do research and you watch the news or you watch some YouTube channel, listen to some podcasts, however you consume your information, you will develop an opinion and you are allowed to speak about it. And Joe Rogan has monetized that better than anybody on the face of the planet has. You don't need to be and the reason why Dave Smith is there, and the reason why Dave Smith has the level of notoriety he has gotten over recent years is because he has really good opinions and takes on these complicated situations that, for open-minded, free-thinking people, open your mind further and lead to more questions and lead to you building your new opinions.
Sure. And some charisma comes along with that. Dave Smith is very good at explaining things and making points in a way that's very palatable. But I've come to learn, and he's done that to me. Like, he's made points. I'm like, it's pretty fucking interesting. I should go look a little bit more into that. And then you go and do a little bit of your own research, and you find out, he's right about this certain thing. And then you build up credibility with that person. So again, just one more point. I'd gather that Douglas Murray would not consider Jackson Hinkle an expert. If you don't know who Jackson Hinkle is, I've sent you and Garrett, Captain, a couple of videos of his recently. He's an odd fellow. I will say that. He is a social media, political space influencer type deal, like the rest of us, I guess you could say.
So he's autistic.
Like an American communist sort of thing. He's got a huge following, huge account. He was in Lebanon at the Nasrallah funeral with Hezbollah, hanging out with them. He argues that they're the good guys. He was in Yemen a few weeks ago while these bombings were going on. He addressed, this was fucking crazy. He addressed.
I know who you're talking
Jackson
about
Hinkle.
now.
Jackson Hinkle addressed a crowd of like hundreds of thousands of people in Yemen in English. This American white as fuck looking dude addressed everyone while they're under attack by our own government.
Yeah.
Jackson Hinkle is there, like, you know, the American people are your friends, this, that, whatever, like, and that our government is evil and all this stuff. So by Douglas Murray's logic, Jackson Hinkle has gone to Yemen. He's gone to Lebanon and met with Hezbollah. He thinks that they're good guys. Is he the expert now on this? And we should be listening to Jackson Hinkle? I guess the Houthis and the Hezbollah, they are the good guys, right? Because Jackson Hinkle's been there. He's met them, and that's what he's telling me. No, well, of course not. Right? Of course not. That's not what I actually think. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the fuck Jackson Hinkle's doing, but I don't think he's right. That just going to a place does not give you fucking authority.
And I'm sure they roll the red carpet out for him anyway.
Right. I don't know. At the same time, I will say that there is some value to going somewhere and like smelling the place, touching things, talking to people. I'm not even dismissing that outright. I don't know. I've been to South Africa. I've gone to Robben Island and seen the place where Nelson Mandela was kept prisoner. It's like an interesting experience you never knew about until you like go there and see it. I've been to Rome, seen ancient Rome. It's fucking interesting. But that doesn't mean you can't be an expert on that thing or talk about it or have an informed opinion.
You could also go somewhere and learn nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
How many times have we been to Atlantic City? Can you tell me one fact about Atlantic City?
Go to Italy and you could go eat at McDonald's.
Yeah.
You know, believe me, I've been there. Friends have done that. Pissed me the fuck off. So it's possible. Okay, so run up on time here. So 2 more videos that are significantly shorter. I'm going to go number 1 with Douglas Murray again after the fact, kind of elaborating a little bit more on what he was trying, the point he was trying to make, what he was trying to do,
what he was trying to propagate.
Much of the counterculture, particularly in America, less so in Britain, much of the counterculture is not the counterculture anymore. It's the culture.
Because Donald Trump has won the election.
Because Donald Trump's won the election.
Stop. He's right. That's exactly what I was saying before, right? Like the culture has now shifted. We're all. I
don't think that's wrong. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with that completely. We're all at the table now. The counterculture has won, and now we are kind of this new thing, whatever the fuck you want to call it, is now the woke shit's lost. Okay, so I agree with that.
The podcasters have won. Joe has probably more influence on public debate than the Washington Post these days, and that's great. I love it. I love the guy, but there comes a point, to quote Spider-Man, I think, where with great power comes great responsibility. And when you get the power of actually getting the megaphone in the public space, you should exercise your use of it judiciously. And it seems to me that exercising it by inviting people on who have invented views of history, have claims about things in the present they have simply not seen or reported from or been to or done anything about.
Let's pause that right there. I have formulated my opinion on what he is trying to say.
I have a lot to cook here too, so go for it.
You know how it's kind of like, well, you're British and you lost, so I don't give a fuck what you're saying?
That's how you're feeling?
Kind of basically that at this point now.
Okay, so there's a little bit more. He goes on.
You want to let it ride, or you want to?
Yeah. Let me let him finish cooking, and then I'll cook here for a moment, just so that we can hear him a fair shake.
Best use of it, and before you know it, everyone ends up just endlessly speculating and riffing on things they just don't know about. And I if people want to think it's elitist to believe in expertise, and fine.
So
it is. So
then,
yeah.
He was big on COVID, right? He was making a lot of good points about COVID, right?
And the woke leftists, yes.
But he was just riffing, like he just said he was, and formulating these opinions. He wasn't one of the experts. So by that theory alone, if you just travel back a few years during the COVID times,
apply his logic to him, and he didn't follow his own logic.
Yeah.
Okay, so disclaimer, we're not experts in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but we're pretty good. So I think so by Douglas Murray's logic here, I think the captain and I, we could comment on this topic.
Yes.
First of all, he's wrong. It wasn't Spider-Man who said that. It was Uncle Ben who said, with great power comes great responsibility. So he's wrong there. Number two, I'd argue Douglas's Murray. I don't think you're responsible for the actions of everyone who listens to whatever it is you say on the internet. I think people are responsible for their own actions primarily. But I do kind of understand the point of, like, when you, like, there's a difference between me and you saying something on here, me, you, and Garrett, and then Joe Rogan saying something, right?
Yeah.
Like, there are a lot more people.
There's
listening.
11 people compared to the 11 million.
I do kind of understand. I'm not autistic, right? I understand there is a difference there. I'd argue Douglas Murray's logic right back to him. Douglas Murray, if you know anything about his history, has been a chief proponent of almost every single war that we have been involved in the past 30 years, including the war in Iraq, pushing the lie of weapons of mass destruction, and a lot of the terror wars. He's been writing columns for the New York Post and elsewhere throughout all these years. He's been around a long time, pushing the wars, always siding with the war.
He's a war hawk.
He was in Ukraine. Dave Smith made this point. He was like, I've been to Ukraine, Douglas Murray, and I've seen them on the ground. He's like, yeah, and while you were there, you were saying that they're going to win the war, and then that's why we should keep backing Ukraine. So you weren't even right. But then you're here claiming to be an expert. But I'll make the point, well, Douglas Murray, a lot of people listen to you. You're here cheerleading every war, advocating we get into them all. People die in these wars. Was there no responsibility on your end, by your own logic, that you advocated for them? They were built upon lies, and then people actually died in them? So, like, that logic doesn't apply back to you. But instead, you're applying that standard, that logic to Joe Rogan, who's never advocated for a war or done any, or had any sort of anything.
All he's advocated for is the truth.
That has amounted to millions of people being killed. But Douglas Murray has. The war in Iraq that he cheerleaded ended with millions of people being killed. Millions, right? But he's not applying that logic to himself. Dude, you had some responsibility. You carried water for the regime during that time. You convinced people we should go and do this. When obviously we know it's all fucking lies looking back at it, but that logic doesn't apply to him.
No, of course not.
Come on. I mean,
his whole argument is flawed.
It is, and again, maybe it takes some kind of knowing the guy's track record, right?
Yeah,
to kind of to see how some of these things are flawed. I'll criticize Dave Smith. I don't think he pushed him hard enough in this debate. I listened to him later on. He said, Joe kind of asked me, respectable here. Let's not go too hard. We want to have an discussion.
I'm upset he didn't break out no clips and past tweets like he did to Chris Como.
Something like that. Right. Okay, so. All right. I think we beat up Douglas Murray enough so far. Again, they've both been talking a lot after this. Dave Smith did Piers Morgan the other day. And again, he's kind of getting into another debate about this, around this whole thing. But why I picked this clip was Dave Smith was interview or debating like a military expert, right? An expert in war here. Talking, and the expert in war is going after Dave Smith about how, like, no, you're wrong about what Israel's doing in Gaza. Like, they're following the rules of war, and what they're doing essentially is right in terms of war. So why I picked this clip is because I thought Dave Smith made way more eloquently than I ever could a point I'm always trying to make on this show, is that, like, there are actual real people over there, and your actions are going to have response.
They're taking the humanity out of it. Yeah.
So let's just hear what he had to say. Disappeared there, and we'll go from there. We could comment a little bit after.
Back to the point, because it seems like in these things we do everything except actually debate the issue. You missed my entire point. Once you're appealing to the law or appealing to how warfare actually works, you're missing the entire point that I was making. My point is that this is not how the law works, and this is not how war actually works. I'm making a much more basic human point, a fundamental point. Look, Pierce, the other day, okay, this is, and by the way, if you don't want to believe this story, fine. It's just one firsthand account from Gaza. But whether it's true or not, and there's no reason to suspect it's not true, but whether it's true or not, there's been hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of examples like this. So there was a woman, a building collapsed. She says, as she's walking down the building, she can hear the little kids not 16-year-old members of Hamas. You're talking 4 and 5-year-olds screaming for their mothers while they're buried underneath the rubble, screaming for help from their mommy. And you know what, Pierce? No help is coming because there's no bulldozers in Gaza. Nobody's coming to get those kids out. This is the reality of war. And this is what I'm trying. This is the main point that I was trying to make to Douglas Murray, which he kept running away from. If you're going to say that our goal here is to degrade Hamas, Murray conceded you probably can't eliminate them, but he feels like you can degrade them. If you're going to degrade Hamas and the cost of it is those little children dying under rubble, screaming for their mother as their bones are crushed and no one's coming to help them, then fine. But at least say that you find that price acceptable. And then we could have a real conversation about why people are going to view you as a monster and why the other side will never stop fighting and will always be against you. Because I could tell you for sure, if that was my kids, and I know, Pierce, if those were your kids as well, you wouldn't want to hear anything about how, well, we've codified in international law that this is the norm of the way wars are allowed to be fought versus not allowed to be fought. I'm making a very human point that this is the reality of war. And you can say under international humanitarian law, it's not considered intentional. We would consider this an intentional act in any other area. That's the point. It's a very basic human point that if anyone were to do this domestically and then tried to use the defense of like, no, but I dropped a leaflet. No, I didn't really want to kill them. I just wanted to kill them. We'd go, I don't care. You blew up a building knowing there were kids in there. That's the essence of this whole thing. And there's no amount, there's no amount of expertise that can really get you away from this basic fundamental moral logic.
Okay, so go ahead.
One, I want to smack that smirk right off that expert's face as hard as I can. Two, Dave makes a great point. He's making a human point. So much we take humanity out of things, and you see it all over the place. You ever get into an argument with your boss? They don't care that you have a family at home. They don't care what you're missing. Just shut up and go to work. Whatever you have outside is second to none. And when you're in this workspace environment, you're taking the humanity out of it. You're no longer a human who has a wife and kids and a dog at home. You are just a number that is going to come in, sit at this desk, and slave away. And we've done that with war for years. We put cameras into the Vietnam War and showed the exciting parts of it, some disturbing and crazy stuff. But that was the first visual wartime coverage. And as time went on, we just fought in these distant, nations that nobody could even really pick out on a map, yet alone believe there's infrastructure and culture and a family just like yours sitting at a table every night. And they talk about bombings here and death here and shootouts and stuff. And it just becomes kind of like Call of Duty. You don't remember anybody you shoot on Call of Duty. You just remember your kill-death ratio. But in reality, making the human point, these people are dying, and that's what's causing the problem.
Yeah. And in this specific back and forth, again, the guy that Dave is debating is citing, well, there is agreed upon international laws and things here.
It's still murder.
That Israel's following. How, again, that reminds me of, again, when we had an episode many years ago during the COVID woke insanity, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I like, cited when he was I was arguing with someone about getting the
vaccine,
get the vaccine, and he cited well, we all signed a social contract in America, that essentially whatever, he was trying to say we signed a social contract, therefore the public health contract that if we could spread things amongst each other, you don't have a right to spread a disease to someone else, therefore you have to get the vaccine. And we pointed out, it's we didn't sign it. I never signed any contract. The fuck are you talking about? But you're citing that as if I actually did. There is a piece of paper somewhere with the signature Michael Scaglione on it that then beholds me to have to do this thing that the government tells me to do. Right? That is a construct. People made that up. It's not exactly a perfect comparison, but a law, in a sense, is a bunch of people got together and made something up.
And they made another contract.
And they wrote it down on paper, and not every single person signed that piece of paper. Not every single person agreed to that. And again, if even the countries that did, the people and the families that are on the receiving end of those bombs, the last thing, imagine that your daughter gets killed by a bomb by Iran, right? Iran comes over here. They do have nukes after all this time, and they shoot a nuke over here and it blows up my town and kills my kid. Do you think I'm going to be like, well, they followed the rules of international law, and I can't be mad about it. I'm not going to do anything. No, motherfucker, I'm going to put some American flag bandana on my head, go get my M16, and I'm probably going to go over there and suicide bomb myself or something, right? Because that is
take as many away as you can,
And if you don't understand that is how human beings function, you are doomed to repeat the cycle of violence forever. I apply that logic evenly. I completely understand how after October 7th, there were some people in Israel who were like, nuke that fucking place, guys, off the face of the map. I don't think they were right? Because I can, again, put myself in their person's shoes, but I understand why they would feel that way. I understand why they would support what's going on there right now. The point is that we're like smart enough to, think about these things and try and stop them from happening. But it seems like anybody who is made out to be the bad guy, the villain.
Well,
you're a Hamas supporter.
You're stopping the flow of the money. War is profitable.
Yeah, like those people are not emotional. Like Douglas Murray is not emotional right now. He is being logical. That makes me then question, what are his goals, his intentions here?
He did shrooms with Joe Rogan, and he didn't come down.
All right, a couple more things before we get into tweets of the week. One interesting tweet it's not a tweet of the week, but interesting tweet I saw by Election Wizard about Daryl Cooper. He said, Daryl Cooper unsettles the academic establishment by challenging its traditional gatekeeping of historical narratives. His emergence as an outsider offering alternative interpretations echoes a timeless pattern. A lone voice disrupts the status quo, prompting unease amongst the scholarly elite. This reaction often sparks broader skepticism about the expert class's authority, raising questions about the accuracy of their historical accounts. Cooper's provocation lies not just in his perspectives, but in exposing the fragility of entrenched academic narratives. I agree completely. This happens all the time in human history. Some random person with like a different point of view comes along and he challenges like the status quo that everyone thinks, and he fucking shakes everything down to the foundations. And then people have discussions, debates, they hash things out, and they agree upon a couple. Maybe we were wrong about this. Maybe we weren't, right? And that's fine.
Donald J. Trump did that.
That is human nature, to be honest with you. Even people like fighting against questioning my authority on the thing. That's just what people do. It's very gay to be like, no, you can't do that. We have to censor you, and you're not an expert. It's a very non-manly thing. All right, maybe it's not gay. It's just very not manly.
There's so much.
Sorry, I forgot Douglas Murray is gay too. So I didn't even mean it in that regard.
So it's very much still though with the whole gatekeeping aspect. Yeah. My team versus your team. I can't let you speak ill about my team or prove my team wrong.
And that is human nature, in group, out group. However, when I look at people like a Dave Smith, a Joe Rogan, or Douglas Murray, I expect them to kind of, again, maybe I'm naive. I expect them to like understand that, and let's try and have like an honest. Let's put our big boy pants on. Let's have a discussion about the X's and the O's of these things. And again, like if the price of this is worth it to pay, that being the war we're conducting or whatever. So again, I see this and I see a lack of that being what's happening here from Douglas Murray. And I think, it's some sort of bad faith act that he's got going on here.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure exactly why. Not sure
screaming out, coming out of him. Bad faith actor.
Yeah. Okay. Tweets of the week, Cap. You ready?
Yes, sir. I got one that'll question and one that's simple.
Okay. We got a little.
No videos.
I have some videos. Hold on. We'll start off with.
Do you remember how to do this?
Yeah, I do. So I'm going to start off with mine. It's not a tweet. It's a Facebook post by the New York Post a couple days ago. This is exclusive. YouTube's well-known toddler entertainer Miss Rachel is facing scrutiny over allegations that she promotes Hamas-aligned propaganda in her posts about child deaths in Gaza. While she has gained popularity for her Songs with Little shows, the Stop Anti-Semitism organization claims her public image may not be as innocent as it seems. This is where we're at now. We're one click to the right of the insane woke leftists. Miss Rachel is Hamas.
Yep.
Miss Rachel. So this nice, kind lady who I've raised my children to watch some of her YouTube videos, she counts and sings "Hop Little Bunnies, Hop Hop Hop." They're trying to say that she's a Hamas agent.
When she goes home, she cleans and disassembles her AK-47
and puts on her keffiyeh, right, or her green Hamas bandana, and indoctrinate. This is on the fucking same level of the birds are racist dumb shit that we saw during the woke insanity. I don't even remember. I shared all the time on our pages. Like there were these insane articles about how like this random thing that has nothing to do with
I remember where it'd be like working racism. Out is white supremacy.
Right. And there was one day that literally said the racist legacy of birds. They were trying to say that birds are fucking racist. And I looked at it, I'm like, that's insane. They're just birds. Right? That's the level. We're just one click to the right of that left insanity, woke left insanity at this point. Yeah. Miss Rachel is a Hamas agent.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go on to the captain's first tweet of the week. It's been a while since we did tweets of the week too, here, man. We've been all
I haven't even had time to be on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay, simple. Let's put this to a poll. Should the U.S. military launch an attack in Iran? Overwhelmingly, what does that say?
86.8%. Yeah, 56,000 votes. Not every single person in the country. It's a large sample size there.
Yeah. And once again, I do not want a new war. I do not want war with Iran, however you want to say it. And God, I really believe we're going to fucking get one.
I hope not. I hope cooler heads prevail. I've seen while we've been gone, I've shown you a couple things. I've seen that like military assets have moved around. There's been some threatening statements made. Trump has also tried to press them into negotiating. Let's make a deal around the nuclear program, which they've been
open to.
No. Which Iran has been 6 months away, 2 weeks away from a nuke for 35 plus years now. At all times, Iran is only 2 weeks away from a nuke. If you read all Scott Horn's books, he documents some of the previous times. One of the things to make a point on this real quick, the war with Iran thing, I'm seeing a lot of MAGA people are like hyper confident that we would win a war against Iran.
We don't need to win. I don't care. Yeah, we would win if we fought a war to win, and we'd show up in a day, and we'd turn the place into a parking lot, and we'd be home by dinner. But that's not the case. We're going to get into war with Iran so we can print billions upon billions. We're going to have $1 trillion budget, military budget, and no war. Okay, sure. Again. And the stripper down at the strip club likes you.
Let's do this. I'm not an expert, right? But I have looked into what a war in Iran would take. Iran is not Iraq. It is not a flat place that can be easily invaded. It is
it'd be
mountainous, rugged terrain with a much stronger government and military, much better equipped. Anti-aircraft hell, like in terms of placing all those anti-aircraft batteries and things in the mountainous region of it. So you're going to have to commit to an overwhelmingly expensive campaign. You're going to have to commit probably to a draft. You're going to have to commit boots to the ground. You're going to need backup. You're going to have to probably commit to a draft. A lot of people are going to die. It is not going to be a cakewalk the way Iraq was. It's a different scenario. Go look into it, just the geography of it. So yeah, we would probably win if we mobilize the entire country and commit every single person almost to war, and probably half of them to die. Is that a price we're willing to pay? For what? For what?
Well, then then it's basically the Thanos snap, and then we have more resources for us, and we can all prosper.
It's not something I want to get involved in or I'm interested in. Let the mullahs run Iran. I don't give a fuck. It's not my business. And
it's not off the coast of New Jersey.
To see that coming out of some of the MAGA people, Jesus Christ, what happened? What happened in the past couple of weeks?
Boomers.
All right. One moment here, because this one is a video. And we'll have a little fun here at the end here. So this one got posted by Centurion the other day on Instagram. Hang on.
This killed me. This really brightened my day. The second I heard that horn and watched her, trotting along, I knew the exact scene, the exact moment, what was going on. Good for her. Those cans get pretty hot. Good for her for picking that up and running a 50-yard dash at her size.
There's nothing like some Lord of the Rings humor. Go for Cap's next one.
We need to have a conversation about what happened to the real Alex Jones.
How the tables have turned. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Now it's him who's a lizard person or something.
Yeah, he's a lizard. You know what? And if Alex Jones's conspiracies were true, and some of them were, it would benefit the lizard people to capture him and clone him and put something out.
That's some 4D chess right there. Yeah,
it would benefit. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying. Like, I try and cover like the hair, on the left to see. Or, the beard to see. But the eyes are vastly, wildly different.
Yeah.
I know one's open, one's
what ground are you trying to water here, Captain? What trying to,
I've believed in the clone theory for a long time. Eminem Eminem's had that real specific style of rapping in his early albums. And then later on, he just never did it again.
Sure. Yeah,
I believe he's one of the clones.
One of the clones. So
I think a lot of. Why not? Well, he might be.
Look, he lost a lot of weight. I saw he's on an insane diet and workout regimen the last couple of months. He's in shape now. He was a fat kind of slob before that. Your body changes. It looks a little bit different when you lose a lot of weight. He's also gotten older. People's look. You could see me at let's go to the first episode of Two Doomed Men. Where I had a head of hair. And now I got nothing after listening to Garrett's advice. So you might be like, "Oh no, the lizard people got Scagz and they took over his body." Right? Maybe. You're right.
Maybe.
This is kind of the ground that we're trying to water here. Okay, so one more tweet of the week. This one is a good old-fashioned tweet, and it made me laugh out loud when I read it. Lee Grader, short mag style, says, "If you're waiting for the Chinese to blink, well, good luck detecting that."
And we're canceled. Bye-bye, YouTube.
That's a good joke.
Comedy is, what did Elon say? Comedy's legal again?
Legal again. It's talking about the tariffs, right? Are they going to blink in terms of the tariff war? Making a joke about their tiny little eyes. Yeah, I thought that's a good use of, a little bit of racism.
That's comedy, people.
Humor. Yeah, so funny. I thought that was well done. All right. I think that's it. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Doom Nation, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Next week, we'll see you at WrestleMania. It should be a good one. This weekend, this Saturday, we will be doing a little live streaming for WrestleMania. So come out and join us. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. The more you guys do that, the more likely Scagz and I could do this full time. And then we don't have to disappear for a week because we got to take care of our family or travel for work or work overtime or anything like that. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We will see you soon. Adios.